FAA says evidence shows similarities between Ethiopia and Indonesia plane crashes. The Federal Aviation Administration identified similarities between the crash of an Ethiopian Airlines flight and the Lion Air crash in Indonesia, leading the agency to ground all Boeing 737 MAX planes on Wednesday. In its emergency order, the FAA said new information about Sunday's crash indicates President Donald Trump said that the United States will ground all Boeing 737 MAX planes immediately, becoming the last country banning such flights after the fatal Ethiopian Airlines crash. Pilots. U.S. carriers, including American Airlines, Southwest Airlines, and United Airlines, that fly MAX 8 planes began canceling some flights and were working to rebook the affected passengers. The grounding will remain in effect indefinitely, the FAA said, pending the examination of flight data recorders and cockpit voice recorders from Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. The black boxes from the Ethiopian Airlines plane were being sent to Paris, a spokesman for the French Bureau of Inquiry and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety (BEA) said. France is set to handle the review of the black boxes, which are expected to arrive in the country by Thursday, the spokesman said. Ethiopian Airlines spokesman Ashrat Begashaw had told CNN the US and Canada had been the only two countries still flying the aircraft. To date, the Ethiopian Airlines Boeing MAX 8 jet plummeted into a field shortly after leaving Addis Ababa's Bole International Airport on Sunday morning, killing 157 people. One of the pilots, as investigators search for clues as to the cause of the disaster, more aviation authorities and experts are drawing parallels to the Lion Air Boeing MAX 8 plane that went down last October over the Java Sea in Indonesia, killing all 189 people on board. In its emergency order, the FAA said new. Speaking to reporters, Daniel Elwell, the acting administrator of the FAA, said the data was added. As the Ethiopian Airlines and Lion Air crashes are still under investigation, there is no evidence that they had a common cause. When Canadian Minister of Transport Mark Garneau announced the country would no longer allow the 737 MAX 8 or 9 aircraft to take off or land in Canada, he also mentioned the new data. He said satellite tracking data collected when certain aircraft take off, specifically the vertical profile of the aircraft, was analyzed by officials and was the reason they decided to ground the Boeing 737 MAX 8 and 9 over Canadian airspace. While not conclusive, Garneau said there were similarities in the new data they analyzed and the doomed Lion Air flight that caused them to feel a threshold had been crossed to halt those flights. The MAX 9 model has never crashed, but it was included in an FAA Emergency Airworthiness Directive following the Lion Air crash last year. A MAX 10 model. In the meantime, some aviation experts are focusing on the similarities between the two incidents. Given. Ethiopian Airlines CEO Tewald Gebremariam told CNN that the company's pilots had received additional training on the flight procedures involving the 737 MAX 8 after the Lion Air crash. U.S. officials and Boeing had argued to keep the planes operating in the wake of the fatal crash but changed course in light of new information. The Federal Aviation Administration ordered the temporary grounding, citing new. Elwell told reporters the agency had held off on the grounding because they expected to have more flight data by now. The process has been. Boeing said it supported the FAA and the Trump administration's decision. The company said it. China's Aviation Administration was the first to order a suspension on Monday evening, grounding all domestic Boeing 737 MAX 8 jets, citing its principle of zero. China has one of the world's largest fleets of Boeing 737 MAX 8s, operating 97 of the planes, according to Chinese state-run media. And its future in China could be severe for investors. China is predicted to soon to become the world's first trillion-dollar market for jets. Aviation safety experts, regulators, and pilots around the world remain divided on whether the Boeing 737 MAX 8 is safe. The Air Canada Pilots Association applauded Canada's decision, saying that they supported the decision too. But other pilots disagree. The Pilots Union, in a Southwest Airlines Pilot Association letter, Union President Jonathan Weeks said the union is extremely. He added that he would put his family, friends, and loved ones on any Southwest flight, but that he has lobbied for training to evolve. The letter warns, however, that if new information comes to light, the union will.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.